The first thing I thought was like, when's the last time I felt her move? Like before I even went into like trying to fix the situation, it was like as soon as I have him like, have I felt her move today? Like that was like, and I couldn't even remember if I had felt her move. So it was like, I didn't even know if she's alive right now. And
Hey there, and thanks for tuning in for another episode of Grace Off the Stage. This is a ministry of Grace Bible Church in Sebring, Florida, and this is a platform where we get the opportunity to celebrate the faithfulness of God and just the everyday, ordinary stuff of life. Oftentimes when we gather together in large gatherings for worship services or special events, we only get an opportunity to give a nod to the working of God in the lives of the people around us. But this platform gives us the space to really tell the story and just to immerse ourselves in the lives of others as they had to trust God in a special season of their life and as they have seen God prove himself strong and faithful yet again. And our goal in this time that we get to spend with you is a couple of things. We hope that you, not only in hearing these stories, are able to see the faithfulness of God in the lives of someone else, and it reminds you of the faithfulness of God in your life, but we also hope that this inspires you to have the courage to continue to trust Jesus in your season of waiting or who knows what in your life. And so today we have some special folks that we get to interview. One of our own team members and their family, where it's just a few months ago that we all entered into their nightmare of the baby that they had been waiting for and was so excited to be born, decided to come 2 months early, and it definitely was not an easy night. There were a lot of scares and a lot of unknowns and a lot of Jesus having to step in the story and perform microscopic miracles right in front of our face. And so today we gather to tell a little bit of that story. So this is Etienne and Abigail Doucet. Welcome to Grace Off the Stage.
hello.
Glad to be here. Glad to be here.
Well, let's start in the present, shall we? How's the baby doing? So we're weird about the 3.5 month mark?
Yes, that is correct.
How is Presley Dallas Doucet doing?
Man, she's like crushing it, honestly. She's getting really chubby cheeks and just kind of like all these things are happening. So obviously it's kind of weird because when we tell people she's 3.5 months old, they're like, that's a real small baby. And we're like, well, developmentally, she's like a month and a half old,
right.
But it's such a beautiful blessing that we get to like enjoy this with her. And she's doing all kinds of cute things. She has really smiley mornings.
Yeah. We'll be out in public and people will say, how old's your baby? Oh, cute. Like, how old is she? And we're like, 3.5 months. They go, it's like the face is always like, what?
Confused. Yeah.
And we always had to immediately be like, she was 2 months early. She was premature because they just like are confused why she's so small. But we're like, she's huge now. Like,
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Like now compared to what she was when
like
we
you're
first.
kidding, she's huge.
Right.
Like her best feature is her double chin, you know?
Yeah, and most
Is she
people
putting
too.
on a weight?
Most people too, it's like have never even held a baby this small, and so we're so used to it. So when people like hold her, even to this day, they're like, "This is the smallest baby I've ever held." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Most people's babies come out 7, 8, 9 pounds.
yeah.
We're excited that she's 9 pounds now, but she doesn't really look it." And
But I
so-
love though that like holding her still feels like holding a newborn a little bit because
Yeah.
she still tucks her
Oh,
feet up
yes.
under her.
It's
You know,
beautiful.
that's the best
It's the
part
best
of holding
feeling,
her,
dude.
man. I love that.
I tell people all the time, like, though this was scary and traumatic, like, we got bonus newborn time, and, like, newborn time, though the sleep is rare, like, the cuddles and, like, they just want to be held all the time. Oh, man, I love it.
So what's been the hardest part of the first 3.5 months of real adulting and being a parent to a newborn?
I feel like in the beginning, it was like the extreme lack of sleep because her days and her nights were swapped. So like she would want to sleep all day and be awake all night,
And do you
which
feel
means
like you've kind of settled into that rhythm where you're okay with not sleeping?
well, like now she does a lot better, but in the beginning it was like she was sleeping all day and awake all night, and so we were awake all day and awake all night.
Yeah, right. Of
But
course.
like now it's like she pretty much sleeps pretty good throughout the night, which is nice. So
No, that's good.
she's
That's been the
li-
hardest part
yeah.
for you, the sleep part, huh?
well, the sleep part, and then like once I went back to work, we're both back to work, and it's like trying to balance both being back at work. So then even though she's still sleeping, it's like I feel sleep deprived because it's like, I mean, we do because it's like we're working and then we're coming home and taking care of baby. You don't like get to just come home and be like,
Oh,
all right, I just want to take a nap now, you know?
Well, because you guys are so loved in our community, you have like 150 aunts and uncles that will like
Yes.
take the baby
Yes.
at any time, which is a
Yes.
blessing.
Yeah.
Amen.
But it's probably also a little bit of a curse because then everybody's wanting to touch and hold the baby and feel like
Yes.
they have like exclusive rights
Right.
Yeah.
or special rights to your child. So
Yeah,
just so y'all know, I've held the baby twice in my life.
That's right.
And both times it was handed to me.
That's right. There you go.
Yes.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Just
And
so you know.
yeah, that's true. And we
And
really
just so
do
y'all
appreciate
know,
that.
Only take the baby if they hand it to you.
That's
Don't come
right.
and grab
That's
the
right.
baby.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's weird because like she's been, she's 3.5 months now, and usually babies at 3.5 months, people are a little more okay with everybody holding the baby, but it's like she's just now like newborn weight for some babies,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like it's almost still a little scary for me because it's like I know she's like 3.5 months old, but she's kind of like she's like 9 pounds, so I'm like I don't know how much her body can handle, so it like
Yeah.
makes me nervous.
I think about it
But-
this way for everyone else is like when you came home with a newborn baby, or anyone comes home with a newborn baby, they don't hand them off for a few weeks. Like they're usually at home. You don't leave the home.
Right.
You're kind of just settling back in. You're hopefully on maternity leave. Well, yes, we're 3.5 months in, but we're still in that phase almost. And
yeah,
so we've obviously got really like we have people we trust, and they know like man they're telling us if they're like been around people who's sick. Man, we have like really close friends that are like teachers who are like, hey, I've been around kids all week. I shouldn't hold your kid, and we appreciate that awareness. We don't.
I
we
never
don't wanna-
touch that baby on Sundays.
Right, and we don't want to like
don't touch
rob anyone of an experience. We would
Yeah.
love for everyone to hold this baby, but like, man, love on her well when she's a toddler. Like, love on her well when she's an elementary age
We
kid.
got to get our
on her well
love
when
and
she's a
snuggles in
teenager.
though before she starts walking,
That's
because
true.
then she won't be
Yeah, yeah.
interested in us
Interested.
anymore.
That's right. That's
What's the
right.
hardest part of your first 3.5 months as a dad?
I think the hardest part is like I'm naturally like a nurturer in the way of like I want to take care of things and I want everything to be perfect and everything to be right in the sense of like in our home, and I get really weird and OCD about how clean my house is or not clean my house is, and I think it's been really chaotic not getting in that, being able to be in that rhythm. And so it's like when you're trying to like have everything right while you're trying to take care of a newborn, and also like you feel this tension of being like, even with all the help and all the love, sometimes it can feel like I'm like, are we being a burden? Are we requiring too much? Are we asking too much of
The
people?
answer is still no.
And the answer is no. We know that in our minds, but sometimes my heart's like,
right.
because people are like, come on, I'll come watch that baby. And I'm like,
Yeah.
We're dead serious.
It's also like I don't want to burn people out in a sense. It's like we're cool with people watching her and stuff, but we're like, oh, I don't want to ask them too much. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't want to
Yeah.
overextend.
And that's good. I mean, that's
overuse
good
people.
wisdom, but like y'all are a long ways from anybody even being wore out with
Yeah.
your little baby. What's the best part of the first 3.5 months?
Oh, the best part, I mean, it's just like, I don't even know how to words explain it. Like, I really undervalued when people say, like, how great it is being a dad. Like, I never understood truly or comprehended, like, how I'm going to just love and treasure this small being. And because you hold other people's babies and you give them back.
I bet it change your
Oh,
outlook
my
on the world
goodness, man. It's
instantly.
Even like my decision making, like, we shouldn't probably do something dangerous together anymore. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Because
that's
it's
for
like,
sure.
not that we were, but it's like, hey, we probably both shouldn't go fly on a 12-hour plane ride without having some things in place in order. Because
I
it's
hear
like a
that.
few things like that you don't think about. And then for some reason, the day she was born, my mind immediately went to, maybe it's I'm a youth pastor, it went immediately to the kid that's going to show up and ask her to go to prom with her. And I'm going to be like, you're not good enough.
Oh man, yeah,
You're not
definitely
good
good enough.
You're not D1, you're not good enough.
By D1, he means a superstar
That's
athlete.
right. Superstar athlete who's definitely going to the league. So
That's for sure. What about you, Abigail?
We're talking about the best part.
the best part of this last 3.5 months with that baby.
I just feel like it's hard to explain because it's not like a specific thing. It's just like the connection, I guess.
I imagine.
Like,
The
I don't feel
maternal
like
connection. That's
yeah,
supernatural.
there's just
man.
nothing like that. I don't know. Like
Yeah.
being, like knowing like she needs me and like I feel like I need her.
Well, and the two of you have been one flesh literally
Yes.
for
Yeah.
like a year, nearly a
Yes.
year of your life, and experienced some of that trauma together of just the very unexpected arrival. And I mean, let's jump back into that. That was part of what was so remarkable about y'all's story is like every other young couple, you had planned out your idealized view of how life was
Right.
going to go. Y'all had even decided, you guys had waited for a time and then decided when you wanted to try having children, and that baby came pretty quick. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Hey, man. I mean, y'all didn't have to try real hard. I noticed. Man, you go through those phases of preparing, and you get the baby room ready, and you have the showers, and it's like, all right, You were about to transition into the season of kind of getting your home
Preparation,
ready for the baby, and then the baby decided she was coming. I mean, I remember you were with us that morning, totally normal day, until you were at work, which was the blessing of God on the
blessing
story,
of
because
this,
Abigail works at a hospital.
Yeah.
And so instantly when she started showing dangerous symptoms, they rushed her in to be examined.
Yeah.
And within a few hours, baby was here. I mean, y'all went from having 2.5 months or 2 months to get ready to being parents overnight. I mean, let's go back to that night. Abigail, what was it like in that moment, that jarring moment when you realized what was happening and and knew that your baby was coming right now?
So, I mean, when I found out that she was coming that fast, I don't think I had time to like even process what was happening.
We'll start with your day real quick. Tell them
Yeah.
like what signs led up to that real quickly, and then get to that point. So what was
So
like
kind
what
of
were
the
the signs
story.
you experienced? Yeah.
So I was at work, like Dustin said, and I was feeling kind of weird, like you feel when you're pregnant, you get like different times where you feel weird, but it's not like or like uncomfortable, but there was just something different about the way I felt, and I even like instinctively was like, this doesn't feel right, and I texted Etienne, I'm like, we need to like pack my hospital bag. Like that day I was like, we need to make sure we pack the hospital. It was just something like in my mind where I was like, I feel like she's gonna come earlier than she's supposed to. Like I wasn't thinking today, but then
you knew something was up.
Yeah, and I just felt uncomfortable, and then like I tried to sit down to eat lunch and I couldn't even finish my lunch, so I got up to go to the bathroom, and without being super graphic, there was a lot.
There was evidence that like something wasn't right.
So I immediately, like when that happened, I was just like in the bathroom, like, and kind of in shock, like, but I felt like it couldn't be frozen in that, because I was like, I need to do something now, like
right away.
So, and because I knew like this is not right, so I like called Etienne first so that he could come or be making his way, and then I called someone from work to have them help me get upstairs. I'm like, I'm just like in this. Then my coworkers got me rushed up to OB, and I like Etienne was there fast, and it felt like I was kind of like frozen in time until like I got the heart monitor on, and then you could hear the heartbeat.
And that was like a sigh of relief.
Yeah, it was like I could like breathe a little bit, but it was also like obviously
what's wrong?
Something's happening,
they weren't sure still. Like
yeah, and they had explained to me, the nurse who was triaging me, and I mean she was asking me questions really fast, like trying to like get me in the system, and because I wasn't even supposed to deliver at Advent, I was supposed to deliver at Lakeland Regional, so all my records were at Lakeland Regional, and I mean, like you said, by the grace of God, there was an OB upstairs, and I could just go straight up. And she was telling me, we think you're having a placental abruption. Doctor's going to be here in a minute. And she's like, just so you know, a lot of people are going to be in the room in a second. And we, try and don't freak out. But there's going to be a lot of people in here trying to do things. And
that was great that she at least kind of like prepped you for what to expect. Because that would have been even more terrifying had any of that been a surprise.
Yeah.
You've been surprised by enough.
And she was right. I mean, a bunch of people rushed in there. I had both of my arms. People were getting IVs. Like I couldn't. I mean, people were asking me questions while they're getting IVs, and trying to going through paperwork, like asking me, do you want this? Do you want this? Like, are you ready to sign this? And I'm like, I don't have my arms.
And Etienne hadn't even made it yet.
Well,
he was sitting. He was sitting there.
Oh, you had made it by this point.
And the crazy part about it was like just witnessing this was like it went from we didn't know what's happening. This is like the hardest part is when I got that call. I immediately got like really afraid because I was just like, there might be a decision that has to be made.
Yeah.
And right, wrong, or indifferent, I was like, I hope that I don't have to make a major decision today on.
Of course.
Because in those situations, you never know. The baby's that early, she was bleeding a lot, and we were afraid, like, man, what does this mean? If this means like saving the mom or a baby, like that's the decision that I felt like potentially could have weighed on me, and I was terrified because I was like, I was praying out loud the whole way. And I was flying. Sorry, Sheriff Department. I was flying, man. And I remember driving on the road just thinking, like, God, please like, just protect my wife, protect this baby, protect my wife, protect this baby. And like, man, even almost begging and pleading with God. I had like a real moment where I was just like, God, please. Almost like I was trying to bargain. Like, God, I'll give you anything. Like,
Yeah.
God, anything to save my wife and this baby. I'm like,
I'm
like, God, I'll empty the bank account. I don't care, whatever you
have
need,
it
God.
all.
You can have everything in that moment. And as I was like, Joanne, we were sitting there watching her, and she's right. They came in like a storm. And the worst part about this thing was, she's right. They were asking all these questions, and they were like, "Do you want this vaccination? Do we want to do like
things that we hadn't really decided yet?"
Decided yet, which is fine. Like, because we're just
you
like
had 2 months to figure it out.
What do we do? And it moved to that place where she was in there, and man, they're like sticking her in all these things. And when we felt that we heard the heartbeat. We felt some peace.
Yeah.
Because we knew the baby was at least okay for now.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I just knew, like, with how everything was going, I'm like, I'm about to have this baby today. Like, before they even told me, I'm like, they're going to take me in for a C-section. Just like with my medical background, I'm like, I just know, like, what's coming next. And the doctor comes in and was like, we're going to try and fly you out before you have the C-section if we can get you stable. And I mean, like, 2 minutes later comes back in and it's like, well, the anesthesiologist walks in. He's like, is this the code 1 or whatever? And I was just like in front of my bed, I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, he got in there before everyone else, and he was like, the doctors have told you.
And the nurse is like, I don't know if they called it. He's like, they called it. And so all the people from the OR, who I know a lot of the OR staff, so I recognize them as they walk in, and I'm just like, great, like, this is where we're going. And the doctor walks in, she's like, all right, we're taking you now because we don't have time to fly you out. So
Oof.
I mean, it was like from the time it happened to the time they got her out, it was like an hour. I mean, like, not even that long.
Oh, no. Well,
So,
we're all, trying not to call, trying not to text, but everybody's just like, everybody's world stops.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, we're worried about you, we're worried about the baby, everybody's praying, we're trying to just figure out what's going on. We want to come up there, we don't want to come up there. It's like, I think we were as discombobulated as y'all were, in a sense, disoriented. And I mean, so baby comes, room full of people. It was supposed to be you and Etienne and your OB. And now there's a room full of people making decisions for your baby.
Yeah.
Big decisions, like what to do next. And here you haven't even had a chance to hold the baby yet because they rushed the baby out of there real quick. And I mean, like, if you don't mind taking us into that moment, like that's the nightmare of any and every mother. And what was running through your mind and your heart in those moments of like, oh my gosh, what is happening right now?
Yeah. I guess because I didn't know, like, when they took her out and she started crying, I'm like, okay, she's good, And Etienne walks over to see her, and I'm, behind this curtain, and they don't even show me her, or, like, I don't get to see her at all. And the first time I saw her, Etienne brings back a picture of her, and I'm just like, I want to see her,
That's not the plan.
Yeah.
Not the plan.
So, sorry.
All right, take your time. And we don't even have to drift into that part of the conversation if you don't feel comfortable. We can always chop and edit if you need a minute to catch your breath.
So, sorry.
Yeah, and watch this kind of gather. I think like one of the things about that too was like so hard was trying to champion her, and she's like going through this, and everybody was concerned about her in the meantime. But once the baby came out, the mom comes an afterthought really quickly. And so I think that was kind of one of those things where as she was kind of experiencing that, and as we were going through that, it was like, man, we're really experiencing something that, only happens to other people. You know?
This was not how your life was supposed to work.
Not part of the plan. I felt like everything I planned didn't happen. Like, it all just kind of like went off to the side. And I mean, I was happy that she was okay, but it was like, I felt like a lot of things were being stripped away from me. Like, just that first like connection with her, like a lot of people talk about the golden hour or whatever. And I didn't even get to hold her for the first couple of days. So it was like really hard.
That was wild. And so they essentially had to rush baby out and airlift Presley to Tampa. Is that right?
They flew her to Tampa. And they told me that like once they took her back and they took me back to the room, I'm expecting like maybe I'll get to see her for a minute, but I guess my mom even said she was like begging them to bring her
Yeah. I bet she was.
outside of the room because,
I bet
I'm
your
just
mama
like,
was.
please.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
fighting for her
She
grandbaby
was.
and her daughter.
She got there really fast too. I mean, she lives
praise God
an
for
hour
Mom,
and
seriously.
an hour and a half away practically. So I mean, she got up there real fast, and thankfully, So, I mean, people were asking like, can we bring the baby to the room, like, but they wouldn't let us. So, I didn't get to see her until they were about to fly her out. Like, Aeromed had came in to pick her up.
So you
and
did
they-
get a moment with her before
Briefly,
they took her.
Brief, yeah.
Did you get to, have any, was that skin to skin moment? Was that
No.
you seeing the baby?
She
or
was just in like the box that they
Incubator
were,
thing,
that they were taking her
Okay, so
out
you
in.
still hadn't held her yet.
I only got to touch her.
Yeah, because she was
Yeah.
strapped into so many. She had a CPAP on. She had a heart monitors on.
Yeah, right.
They had her like They had her like she looked like a robotic baby at that point. I mean, there's
Scary.
it's just kind of like you could see less skin than you could see anything. I mean, because it was just so covered with stuff. And so, and again, she's in the space. So Abigail was able to kind of hold her hand for a second, touch her for a second. But they were also trying to move. They're like, we got 5 minutes. We got to get out of here. Which we agreed.
They didn't even give me much time too, which was really hard. It was like they came in and it was like with like not even 5 minutes it felt like, and they were just like, okay, really got to go, you know. And I'm just like, I just saw her, and
Which
everything.
this transition created like this really like tense moment for us because we had to choose who goes with the baby, who stays. And I wish I got to ride a helicopter, but I didn't.
Well, she just came out of surgery,
Right.
So naturally, you do you run with the baby, or
Right,
you
and
stay
that-
with Abigail? And
Well, what he means is like my mom and him were there. It was like, is my mom gonna stay with me? Like,
okay.
are we gonna send someone up there with the baby, or is he gonna stay with me? It was like, and I think obviously we were like, you should go, like Etienne should go.
Yeah.
But then also I was like, what about me?
But
like,
you wanted him too. Like,
I'm just like, I don't get to go yet, and I'm
most
just gonna
traumatic
be here.
moment of your life, and and nobody can pay you any attention because there's a bigger problem
Yeah.
afoot right now. Even your own husband's like,
Yeah.
I remember it's middle of the night, you're chasing a helicopter to Tampa, like. Now, what kind of nightmare was that, Etienne? I mean, I remember being so nervous about you driving yourself.
You were gonna drive?
And I was one of, I'm sure, 50,000 people that said, don't drive yourself. We'll drive you. We'll drive you. And, of course, you say, no, I'm good. No, I'm good. No, I'm good. Well, and I figured, like, okay, he needs someone with him to drive him, but he probably also needs a minute to be by himself.
I needed a minute.
To just, like, deal with it.
Yeah.
because you needed to be able to walk in to Tampa ready to make decisions.
Correct.
So
and that was the hard part was like, man, and we had like, I mean, you and every friend I have under the sun, man, was ready to ride up to Tampa and stay with me. And, and man, it was like, it wasn't that I didn't appreciate that because that's what I probably now hindsight would have been the smart decision. But man, it was late and, I was like, I'm just going to cram an energy drink. And I'm just like, I was so wired and so much adrenaline from the day. I was so up, man. I just wanted to get to the baby. And it was like stuck that I had to leave Abigail. And that was like, but man, we were just like in agreement, like, so, and which I'm glad I did in the hindsight. Like there were a lot of decisions I needed to make for this baby that mom wasn't gonna be able to be there for. And so, man, when I got in that car and I'm driving down the road, I just remember like, and I'm flying, dude, and it's late. So, roads aren't busy. And, but in my heart, I'm just praying. I'm like, God, like I was really mad. Like I was really angry because I was like, God, like, I understand, but I don't. Like, this is a part of your plan, but because at this point, still at 32 weeks, we're hoping that all is well. We don't know. We actually don't know the state of our baby. Like, we don't know, is she have defective lungs? Does she have a defective heart? Is she...
Well, because the conversation happened and wasn't like,
right.
Hey, everything's good.
Yeah.
Right.
We're just going to transport her to another hospital just to keep an eye on her. It's like medevac.
Exactly. And
here.
it's like if we're not equipped to keep her sustainable here, we have to send her somewhere else.
Yeah,
and so I remember like driving the whole way just like thinking like, God, like if you almost like, again, while I'm bargaining with God on my way to the hospital in this way, I'm almost like threatening God. I'm like, God, if you take this baby from me, like, and in that moment, it was a very human moment for me. And like, obviously, like, I know that like I was battling with God, and I think someone like, Cam or someone said it or said this a long time ago, was just like, man, God's chest is big enough to like land, soft enough to land of, but big enough to beat on.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was just beating on God's chest, like, God, like, man, we had prayed for this. God, this has been perfect timing. Like you said, we had like wanted Abigail to get through school, and we were gonna have this baby, and then we had like hired a doula, like things like that. We had a perfect birthing plan and everything. And God,
Nice
this
little
is how
white
you need
picket
to do it.
fence and
Right.
everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, God, this is how you do. And again, it was like, and this sounds so selfish, but it was almost like when you work in ministry, we experience these things on the regular. Like it's
Yeah.
normal.
In
And this is
everybody else's
in
life.
everyone else's life.
But it's not going to happen to me though.
But it's not going to happen to me. And when
Right.
it happened to me, it wasn't
Yeah.
like I was saying, I doubt you, God. I never like doubted God. It was more like, God, why? Like, tell me why.
Yeah, right.
And I was just having a really human moment on that trip. And I think it gave me time to reset. And I needed time for me and God to just duke it out, in
Yeah.
a car and get a peace of mind for a little bit. So.
I think a large shock was just like there was no warning, and I had a perfectly healthy pregnancy, and
Right.
like we had just seen the doctor like that week. Like I mean, it was just like everything was fine. Like, and I wasn't in any kind of accident or anything. Like it was just like
Yeah.
boom, like what's happening?
It
like
was time.
yeah.
It was time.
And they said, man, and it, just praise God, but they said like when they were doing the surgery, when they were done with it, the lady even was like, yeah, you had maybe an hour like before the placenta would have completely torn itself from the uterus, which means the baby would have lost oxygen and the baby would have lost blood supply, which means say she was sleeping or she was
Even if I was
out of
just at
town.
home, I mean, like not even like if I was just down the street and had to get dressed and get out of the house and get to the
Yeah.
hospital, and like just those additional things that added up, because they said I had a 90% abruption, and that the lady in there talking to me was like, oh yeah, your placenta looks like hamburger meat, like you didn't have much time. So
Gosh.
I mean, just like hearing that was just like, I can't, like, what is happening? Like, and why did it, like, this happened so fast? Like,
And so for the next month, almost exactly,
Yeah.
a couple days go by, you finally get to Tampa and see Etienne. He hadn't slept in days, I know.
Yeah.
first night he slept on the floor.
I know.
Basically,
the cold
so-
floor in there,
Yeah.
and you hadn't seen the baby, so you finally get to Tampa. You heal up enough from surgery, you get to Tampa, and y'all finally get to be with your baby. And I mean, what was that moment like when you just finally got to know, okay, I'm here and I'm not going anywhere forever? You probably were like thinking, like, I'll never leave you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you're never dating anybody.
Yeah, right. You're living with me too.
We've been through too much.
Yeah,
you know, right?
for real. I like when I had finally got to Tampa. I mean, that was a process of me. Like, I mean, when you have a C-section like that,
It's brutal.
it's
Oh, I
brutal.
imagine.
And so I was just like trying. I mean, from the time they took her, I was like, I've got to get out of here. Like, I was like headstrong. Like, I'm gonna be able to stand. I'm gonna
Yeah.
walk. Like, they're gonna take me out of here tomorrow. Like, and they're just like, no, you have to sleep and rest. Like, well, and then they added another day. Like, maybe we'll get you out of here tomorrow. Then they added another
Yeah,
day,
I
and I'm
remember
just
that.
like, I was so mad. But finally, I got to Tampa like 2 days later, and it was just like the best feeling. Like, just like I don't know. Like, and even we said like her, like heart rhythm kind of bounced out a little bit. Just
I
like
remember
getting
that.
to
Yeah.
That was one of
older
the big
and-
things of her trying to get her heart rate to come down some. And I remember him telling us about
her
that.
breathing.
We were praying about that, just kind of regulating her breathing, regulating her heart rate. And then when you showed up,
Yeah.
it was like instantly started dropping.
Yeah.
Which it goes back to what you were talking about earlier. Like there's a supernatural bond
Oh man.
Yeah.
with her mom and her baby that even a daddy, doesn't matter how much he loves her, he can't do nothing about it, you know. But like God began to just heal that baby through you once you got there. That had to have been sweet, a special moment.
Yeah, I just like I mean, when I first got to hold her, and whenever we would hold her at the hospital, especially in the beginning, it was like, are we allowed to hold her? Like,
Yeah.
and they would like help us because she was attached to so many things and
Mm-hmm.
like help us get situated. But they didn't want us doing that all the time. Just like during her touch times, and she had scheduled touch times.
Yeah, 'cause she needed some rest. So
Yeah.
we wanted to, though she had to get up every 3 hours, she needed to try to like rest in the middle
And not be
phases.
bothered too much. So like when I got there and I was there for like the touch time, I got to hold her, and I didn't want to put her down. It was just like I just want to lay here all night. Like I can't explain it, but it was just like a relief of like finally like
Yeah.
I'm back with you. Like I don't know. It just felt like I had been ripped. Like part of me was like
Yeah,
ripped
no
away
doubt.
from me. You know.
Well, the crazy part too is the funny real quick is that the doctor was telling her for her to leave the hospital, she's got to like be off pain pills for like a certain type of the heavy pain pillars that they give you, or the stuff they put in your arm for like 24 hours or 12 hours or whatever. So Abigail, like after like hours after the surgery, is just like, well, fine, don't give me any pain pills.
Yeah, I'm good.
I got this. She's in there like like dying in
I
the
believe
bed.
that.
She's like, dude, I don't want no pain pills. And I'm like,
believe that.
Abigail, take your pain pills. Oh my gosh.
My mom's like, she's had 7 C-sections, which is wild. But she told me, because she stayed with me. Thankfully, my mom was able to stay with me. She's a trooper. She slept on the couch. So, yeah. She was like, everything I was doing, she's like, Abigail, she said, I was never able to do this with any of my C-sections. Like, as soon as you're doing it, and I'm just like,
Well,
I have to.
And she was probably, at least while she's laying in the hospital bed, being able to hold her baby and feed her baby. You, on the other hand, you had to get out of there.
Yes.
Yeah, and then when we had gone by my house to like pack up some stuff to take to Tampa, I'm like up walking around like grabbing stuff, and she's like, Abigail, sit down. I'm like, I've got
to get going. You waited
gotta
long
go.
enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where did you guys, I mean, we got to be a part of the journey a little bit, and I appreciate y'all making the effort to even post Facebook videos and send videos for us to share with the church family, because y'all had so much more on your mind and on your heart to be worried about that. But there is a lot of people that love you.
Yeah.
And we're worried about you, and we're praying for you. And I mean, I can't tell you how much those little videos did for us, not only to help us feel like we were a part of the story, but to just help kind of soothe our hearts, because we're all sitting back concerned, not knowing what in the world's going on, and not wanting to bother y'all all at the same time. And so, but what are some of the ways that you guys just saw Jesus meet you along the road in this crazy month and a half of your life during that season? And I mean,
there were a few really pivotal moments for me personally, and Abigail could speak to some probably, but one of the big pivotal things for me was, of the few, would be, one was, we had this chaplain come visit us, and this was big because this was kind of early on, and we needed this moment. And
we had been kind of suppressing our emotions.
Yeah,
for a
so
while.
obviously, like, when you're going in this mode for the first 2 weeks, we don't have time to like really think about anything. We're not sleeping. We're just kind of like going in autopilot. And Abigail can't sit up out of bed by herself. So every time we'd get up, we had to get up together, which was all this stuff. But anyways, man, one of the powerful things is being a pastor, you do chaplaincy all the time. We go to the hospitals all the time. We see people all the time. And so to be on this side of pastoral care was interesting, because this young guy comes in, man. I mean, dressed to the nines, dapper looking dude.
I remember seeing him.
Handsome fella, bro. And I'm like, he comes walking in, he looks like he's got to be my age, maybe younger.
I would say he can't be much older than y'all. He's got to be in his late 20s.
Right, about our age. And he walks in, and he's like,
thinking, what's this cat got to offer me?
He's like, I'm the chaplain. And Abigail literally goes, my dad's a pastor, my husband's a pastor.
Yeah.
We have pastors
We've done this
texting us
1,000
all
times
day.
with other people.
Right. And this guy walks in, man, and just like cuts like a knife. He walks in and says, hey, I know everyone's going to say, what can we do for you? But let me acknowledge a few things. And he goes, can we acknowledge the trauma you've gone through? And he goes, in fact, let's acknowledge the fact that you lost a picture perfect birth. Let's acknowledge that you lost your trip home. And he said, can we acknowledge that this is hard? And that it's okay that you guys are frustrated and hurt right now? And that sounds so silly, because I feel like, but I always think about every time I go into pastoral care, I always walk in there and go, guys, Jesus, everything's going to be good. And you're like the positive vibe in the room.
Yeah, you're trying to bring it up.
Right, and this guy walked in and said, like, guys, I know that, let's not even talk about the baby. Let's talk about how you guys lost so much in this, and how you had to grieve, how you have to grieve the death of the beautiful birth and the trip home and the first chest time. And like, man, we were just weeping, because it was like,
we're like, you're not allowed to come back.
Yeah, we told him, don't come
You're
back.
too good at your
yeah,
job.
Right,
because he took mourn with those who mourn and weep with those who weep.
Right.
Seriously.
Yes.
Like, he entered into y'all's suffering, man. And that's exactly the first step towards some healing that you needed, man. And which is powerful, because like you, like oftentimes walk in wanting to bring
the mood up,
thinking that's what's best. But in reality, like, they're going to go right back into those suppressed feelings. But the fact that he met y'all there, man, I remember the first time you told us that story, it felt like it almost set you free in a sense.
Because we needed to be told that it's okay to grieve.
Yeah.
We needed permission to grieve. And it was like, when you think about like a beautiful occasion of having a baby, it's the opposite. Like, everyone's like, it's the most exciting time of their life. But for us, the most the most beautiful day of our life was the scariest day of our life at
No
the same
doubt.
time. Where we're like trying to celebrate something so beautiful while grieving all the expectations that were unmet, like
Yeah.
all of them, which were a lot. And it was like we're looking at each other like we've been planning. We got to do this when we bring her home. We're gonna put her in this outfit, and now we don't even get to. She didn't get to hold her baby for 3 days, and when we held our baby, it was very limited, and so
Yeah, and I think like, you know, for him to say that, it was like the majority of people are like, oh well, like the baby's okay, you guys are okay, like
yeah.
everything's good, and you should be happy.
Like trying
and
to
like,
just downplay.
yeah, it's like you
Yeah.
should be happy, you're blessed. Like it was like people expected us to
And
be
once
like,
you know
oh,
all
we're
of that,
good, you know.
it's like, yeah, and sometimes, yeah, I mean, you know all of those truths.
Right.
And you can see them too, but like, honest, I mean, even like good, cold, hard truth doesn't always scratch our deep emotional itches. And y'all had some really deep
Right.
emotional, I mean, fears and concerns, and doubt, and y'all weren't out of the woods
We
yet.
weren't out of
it's
the
like you're
woods,
still
right.
sitting there watching
Waiting.
heart monitors and oxygen level. I mean,
Yep.
you were staring at that machine all day, I
Yep.
imagine.
Oh
just
yeah, obsessed
asking
with the
God.
numbers.
Yeah.
Oh, I imagine you were.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I feel like we're experts in those machines now. And the flip side of that was, man, and this like really is what like wrecked me to the core, and really like just reiterated how special GBC is that I already knew. Man, like not just the staff, but like our friends and family. Like, and we had people like literally, because Abigail stopped working earlier, all these things happened. Like we knew Abigail was going to be able to work longer. Man, we had people like offering to pay, people paying bills for us. We had people that were, we had a whole group of people that Abigail didn't know, but was talking to me. We were organizing, setting up her old nursery. And so, I mean, and we were just kind of thinking like build the stuff because stuffs are still in boxes. Because we just had the baby shower at your house the Sunday before this happened.
Right.
And so we had a bunch of stuff in
And
boxes.
this went down on
This went down
Thursday.
Thursday.
So all this
at least y'all got
happens-
one shower.
That's
huh?
right.
know,
We
yeah.
got it in, and
You
we
had
thought,
stuff in boxes in the back of your car.
right. And then, man, all these people are like, yo, we're going to help this out. And they're like, but they started doing different projects at my house. Like people just like painted the walls, and then somebody was like come in and built shelves, and then they started to build all the things. And so it was one of those things where it was like we felt so overwhelmed with that, but it was also just like, man, people would just come drive and visit us, and we'd be like, you guys came up there obviously, and we snuck you guys in to pray with the baby, which was so cool. And that was such a God moment.
He's referencing we took our other 5 pastors up
Yes.
there to visit them, and they're not supposed to have
In
more than
Tampa.
just the
Yeah.
2 of them, I guess,
Yeah.
in the NICU.
Yeah.
And we rolled in.
Yeah, it's 5 days. And plus, you're not like what's the word, conspicuous. You guys are all 6'2", and like, they're like,
Really
oh, this is your
snuck you
pastoral
in.
team. I'm like, yeah, they're all.
Well, I remember
totally-
your chaplain buddy I remember this young, very well dressed, very
Yeah.
handsome fellow like passing us in the parking garage and say, "Oh, you must be Etienne's pastor
Yeah.
friends." And I'm like, oh, it's like, man, y'all have already made a wave.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
everybody knows who you are. Security guard like knew us by name.
Yeah, I had a problem when I was in
Yeah.
hospital. Since when there's not a lot of things to do, I just asked everyone their life stories. So I learned just about every nurse's their life story because what's better to do.
I interrupted you though, man. You were telling us just
Oh, yes.
where you've seen Jesus step into
Yep.
the story, and you were
Yep.
talking a little bit, not only the chaplain, but also just your
people of
church
grace.
family,
Yes.
Well, I
the
wanna
power
kinda
of
like-
Christian community.
Add to that and touch on like the whole like work situation with me. It's like I had like just gotten into a full-time position, and I was trying to save up PDO so I could, because I didn't have like any paid time off with what is it, like short-term disability. I didn't have that.
Right.
So it was like all I was going to be able to have was a little bit of PDO. And I was supposed to have like at least 2 weeks built up by the time December came around, but then we had her in October, so I basically had like no PDO. And then when we had it first talked about it, I was like, well, I want to take at least like 8 weeks, you know, so I can have a little bit of time at home before going back. And then when it all happened, it was like, how am I going to take any time off? Like, you know, because if I took off 8 weeks, I would have only been home with her for 4.
Yeah. You'll definitely
So-
need more than that.
Yeah, so then when, like he was saying, people really like jumped in and helped out financially with like bills and stuff like that, things to where we were able to take off. I was able to be off a full 12 weeks, which made a huge difference, like just being able to be home with her, because I mean, that means I was home with her for 8 weeks like I planned to be, because the first 4 weeks she was in the NICU. So that was a huge like relief for us, like that we could be home, like that I could be home. So, and that was huge.
That is, you know, primarily and of most importance, man. That's just the evidence of the kindness of the Lord in your
Yeah.
lives to make sure He promised promised us in Philippians 4:19 that he would meet all of our needs according to his riches and glory.
Right.
And so that is the forefront and paramount thing. But secondarily to that, it's evidence of how well you guys have loved so many people in this community that they couldn't wait for the opportunity to love you back. You know what I'm saying? It's like our phone was ringing constantly. Can we do this? Can we clean their house? Can we detail their car? Can we pay their rent? People are lining up wanting to serve you back in a sense because of the impact that y'all have had on the lives of so many folks
Yeah,
in
and
our
we
community.
we were just like overwhelmed with the support and like the love, like the way people were loving on us, like emotionally, financially, like in every aspect. It was like we couldn't like really care for ourselves, and like the church body was taking care of us, and we almost felt like guilty in a sense. We were like, I can't believe people are doing this for us, because like we're so used to being on the other side of it. So it was like, is this okay? Like and that just, I mean, people don't even know like how much that affected us.
Well, I know that meant a lot, and you guys mean a lot to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so it really was a sweet privilege to be able to serve you guys in a time like that.
And that was the thing too about it, like as we're like wrapping up, it was just like really important for me to feel like I want to communicate, like, man, like it was a big moment for us because it was really like overwhelming, and like I said, you do feel that, but man, we had like friends I had friends that just drove over, and it was like we only have an hour block, I mean, because we're trying to be with the baby as much as possible. We want to feed her every time we can, and man, people would drive to Tampa to spend an hour with us, and like we needed to have adult conversations, we needed to have man, I had my friends on staff, Patrick Shingle pulled up, man, and they met me one Friday morning because I just needed a break, and Abigail needed to sleep, and they said, they came up and played disc golf with me for an hour and a half, and then I went home, showered, and went into the hospital. And it was like things like that where people were doing everything they could, and I tell you what, people would have came more if we let them, but everyone were like, please, like, trust me, really. We're good, and people would have did more if we let them. And so it was like, man, the family of Grace Bible Church, we never felt entitled to any of that. We never felt like we were owed any of that. And it was just like, we didn't have to ask for anything. Like God was just meeting every single need through people that were like, again, we didn't have to stand on stage and say, guys, we need to raise funds for Etienne. It was like, people were just like, what do you need? People were like, how can we help you? Can we buy you dinner tonight? And all this stuff. And people were bringing us, it was just crazy. Mary Beth lives over in Clearwater. Oh, yeah. She slid over one day unexpectedly. It was before Abigail got there, the day before. So it was just me. And I was up there, and I was having, I don't do well when I don't get to interact with a lot of people, kind of talkative, Mary Beth came over, just talked and listened and hung out. Her and her husband, her and Jerry came by, and that was so cool because it was just a good moment for us. But, man, we really got to see the hand of God at work through his people.
Praise God. And praise God for the Ronald McDonald house.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
what a blessing that was.
I mean, you can't even, like, remember there's just so many things.
So much, I know.
So, but there was another thing I wanted to say, like, something that I noticed, and we touched on, like, it was a really good thing that I was in the hospital when it happened, and I feel like, that was the hand of God that I was there when it happened, like that. It's like a huge thing just from the beginning. I feel like God knew what was going on. He had the right team there, like the person who did my C-section, like the people who were on staff that day, like just they all did a great job. Like so, it wasn't even just that I was in the hospital. It was like who was taking care of me.
Y'all on that day.
And then there also the thing that came to mind, like after it all happened, I thought to myself, because back when I first graduated, I had 2 job offers. One of them was for HCA and one was for Advent. And the HCA one was a full-time job, and out of school, that's kind of like unheard of. Like, oh, I got a full-time job, And I originally was going to take that position, and something inside me was like, this doesn't feel right. Like, I feel like I don't know why. I was like, I just feel like I'm not supposed to take this. Like, I'm supposed to work at Advent. So I feel like that even because HCA doesn't have an OB. Like, if I had been working full-time at HCA and I was there, I would have had to been sent to Advent. So it was just like, even like all the way back to that. It's like, I don't know if like maybe that's why I was just like so like weary about like maybe I should just work over here. And like I was like,
God, pre-organizing for his
like
master
even that far
strategy
back.
to bring this angel into the world.
Yeah, that covert hand at work all the time.
All the time. Well, the best part of this vodcast today is the fact that the baby's here with us just off set. And so just in case you haven't had a chance to see Presley Dallas Doucet, we wanted to incorporate her.
It's okay.
into our conversation and give you a chance to see that little baby, now 3.5 months old. Get that camera
And
in
a
on
cute
that
little
sweet face.
outfit. Look at her. Mama dressed her today.
Is a microphone in the way?
She's a little bobblehead.
Oh,
Hi.
there she is.
Hey, hi,
There
everybody.
she is. Hey, little sweetie. But thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of Grace Off the Stage, where we get a chance to look at just the supernatural work of God in the everyday, ordinary, and even terrifying stuff of life. It's been a pleasure to share this remarkable story, and I hope that it encourages you to trust God in the scary and in the unknown as you continue to wait for the Lord. God bless you guys, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.